Hello and welcome to Money Discourse again. The market has had a slight rally. The Fed is insisting that it wants more data before it can potentially slow down rate hikes. CBS News quits Twitter, citing uncertainty. And has this recent Tesla drop been partly because SBF FTX selling?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we've been asking every week, we need some calm in this market. We just need some calm in this market. And it seems like that's what we got. I think we had that big move since the CPI reading, and since then we've just been chopping a little bit up, a little bit down, a little bit up. But we've just been going sideways, and it's actually quite nice that we finally got to do that on an index level. But on an actual individual stock level, there's quite a bit of moves still all over. Now we're seeing Tesla getting hammered. Just can't buy an uptick at the moment and settling just around 180, having traded in the 170s much of Friday and Thursday. But then we've seen stocks like Nvidia having a great move, went from a low from 110, 115 all the way up to 165, 170. Same with AMD. Then we had the earnings from Walmart. We saw Walmart go up 7% on like stellar earnings. Meanwhile, Target, on the other hand, missed their earnings and went down like 6-7%. I can't remember exactly where it finished off. But there's two huge retailers with totally contrasting fortunes, and then you've got Walmart that is literally bottom feeder, selling stuff as cheap as possible, whereas Target is a bit more high end. And so you can clearly see that inflation, that there's a lot more sensitivity to the US consumer, at least in terms of getting things for cheaper. And you're seeing shops like Walmart really, really benefit as they're trying to stave off the price rises by keeping prices relatively stable, whereas Target and some of these other high-end retailers are just raising prices quite a bit. So you see that play out in their earnings, but I mean, they're still making money. And then so we saw a lot of retailers did report this week. We got Best Buy, we got Abercrombie, we got Dollar Tree, Dollar General. So you've got a lot of retailers coming out this week too, which will be interesting. We actually did Home Depot and Lowe's. Both of them was pretty good. So I mean, in general, again, like jobs are good. Retail sales actually came out good result on Friday. So despite what the Fed is doing, despite all of that, the consumer is still so strong. They are still spending. There was a tweet that I saw that so many businesses still need workers. There's still a labor shortage, despite everything the Fed is trying to do to absolutely butcher this market. There's still staff needed. But maybe not in the tech space, as we're seeing these jobs being laid off everywhere, with Elon Musk doing this with Twitter, literally cutting now 75% of the workforce. But guess what? Twitter is still running. So there's a lot of fat in the tech sector, but in all of these other sectors, especially in the services and retail, staff are needed. And it's running thin on the ground over there. So, I mean, to be honest, in general, we're at in this impasse where, I mean, the Fed is trying to do more, but the economy has sort of accepted these rate hikes in its stride as it understands what the Fed is trying to achieve. And now we're sort of stabilized. So I don't really now, looking forward, see a real massive drop to the downside unless the Fed. There's two aspects that can really make this go down. Is if the next inflation print, the November inflation print, all of a sudden comes stronger than expected, and that momentum to the downside stops, then I think we could crash back towards 3,600. And then, in fact, that is pretty much the only main thing. Or if anything else geopolitically comes up, maybe that might push it lower. But I mean, it's that Fed number, I mean, the inflation number, which is not due still for another 3-4 weeks, mid-December, till we sort of know if the trajectory is still downwards. But I do see prices coming down. I am seeing it, in certain foods. We're seeing just before Black Friday right now, the immense amount of deals. The discounting that's happening, especially in apparel, like trainers, sneakers, electronics, it's a level that I've never seen before. 40-inch TV for $100. I've shown you before. Everything's been discounted so much because the inventory level on these retailers are through the roof, and so they're all aggressively discounting. I mean, Apple products. How strong are normally Apple products? They released that $800 watch. It's already on Amazon, 10% off. So from being $799, you can buy on Amazon for $729 or $739, and it's not a huge discount. But the fact that 2 months after launch, it's already been discounted. When do you ever see Apple products ever come on Amazon 1-2 months after release and then being discounted? So it just shows that there is a lot of inventory out there, and for the consumer, it's great. You can really pick up a good deal if you want to, but it sort of tells you where we are. And in terms of inflation, well, that is why I think we're going to continue going down, and we might see the Fed doing no more than 50 basis points and then sort of top off around 450. So that's my guess. But again, time will tell. What do you see in the UK in terms of that?
I'm not seeing a lot of deflation as you guys are seeing it. I mean, if you're looking at, say, tech products, obviously a lot of it is purchased from China and the Far East, most likely denominated in dollars. And obviously we've had a very weak pound in the last few months. And that could have meant that retailers were buying it at higher prices and unwilling to discount yet. But we'll see. It seems like yeah, like I said, the US has prices coming down a lot. I see especially items like you're talking about, TVs, etc., not budging in price at all. I mean, just standard goods like air fryers, completely out of stock everywhere, and ridiculous prices. Anyway, this got nothing to do with macro. But yeah, I don't see food prices or anything like that coming down. Energy is still sky high. Yeah, nothing on the ground here saying that we haven't got any respite from the 11.1% inflation reading that was recently announced by the UK. Yeah,
it's a tough one. But I mean, if you look at all the Fed commentaries, if we look where the Fed stands following this, all of everything that's going on, and if we actually look over here, we've had numerous Fed speakers, and lately the typical rhetoric is that it's too early to tell, and we can't depend on one piece of data to make a trend. So they're still in a bit more wait and see mode. But the main thing that we saw Mester come out saying inflation is unacceptably high in the US. We had Bullard saying there's potential for a very good dynamic if inflation comes down in 2023, but they are all saying the same sort of thing, that we are still sticking to our path until we see further evidence of some type of further easing. For Bullard earlier did say hikes have only had a limited impact so far on observed inflation, policy not yet at a restrictive level, sort of suggesting that there's more ways to go. The Fed's Waller, who's a voter, he said that the Fed still has a ways to go on raising rates, could become more comfortable downshifting to a 50 basis point hike, but would still be a significant move. So again, it's a lot of the same type of talk. But the thing is that you can see the language change a little bit. So the Fed's George, which is also a voter, said that the Fed should slow down the pace of rate increases in 2023, but should continue to rate hikes. So it seemed like the overall consensus is that things are slowing. It's a bit too early to determine whether it can really be trusted, that one inflation number, but they are going to continue raising. The real question comes to how much are they going to raise? Is it going to be 75? Some have mentioned 75, more leaning more towards 50. 50 would take us to around, I think, 4.25, and then there was a talk 25 after to 450. But yeah, we did actually see Fed's Collins, this was on Friday, say that they're starting to see some promising signs on inflation, but 75 basis points is still on the table for the DEC meeting. So there we go. So this seems to be the overall rhetoric from a lot of the Fed members, which sort of suggests that, again, we're not out the woodworks for rate hikes. I still think 4.5% to 5% is where it seems to be going. But another good reading in December on the inflation front can really, really change these minds. And I think we might go to a terminal rate of around 450. But if we're still pretty elevated, then I reckon we could go to about 5%.
If you're in the mood to speculate and you're feeling quite bullish based on Rajan's comments here, like, hopefully we've seen the end of the persistent inflation. Just remember that certain stocks and indexes act completely different from when you declare the bottom of the market. So, maybe it might be the bottom of an index that they say, the bottom of the market was on this specific date in November. However, certain stocks, have already hit their lows, some in June already and are not returning to those levels. And some like now where, say, for example, Meta, had a low of $88 and now it's 112. So it needs a big drop of another 20%. And what's the catalyst for that? Like Rajan was saying, a lot of this is already priced into the market. And if that's the case, we have to have another real big shock to the system, and maybe potentially, expectations of rates are going to, 6.5%, 7% for, the market to have to reprice in all of the multiples to bring these stock prices back. If you looked at the bear market we had in June and the lows that we hit at that point, many were caught out by the fact that the Fed would have really started tightening, and their rhetoric has been ultra hawkish and really bringing down the markets. But again, remember, you have to look at the markets as a forward prediction machine, and it's kind of like the consensus of the whole collective consciousness, which is amazing. But that's why it's so hard to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the S&P 500 right now, so as an overall as an overall index, you can see that what Jason was talking about, that was a low in June. Then we had this huge rally up of almost 20%, got to a high of just below 4,300. Then we had that other move, and it actually took out those June lows. So we actually hit lower low, and another lower low, and then we keep on having lower highs again. So I think for this trend to change, we need to, first of all, break out of this downward channel that we have been reaching. So that will be around 40.50-ish, depending on when we hit it. And then we really got to take out this roughly about 4,300 to take out that previous high pivot point that we had over then. If we do that, then we've actually we've broken the trend of lower highs, and that could be a catalyst coming into the year end or beginning of next year to now push us back higher again. But we are still in this downward channel, and we are approaching this trend line going down. So first of all, it'll be interesting to see whether we can reach that, if we can break it, and then if we can break it, whether we can actually reach the August highs. But as we can see the S&P, it's bounced from 3,600 odd to just around, call it 4,000. So that's almost like just over a 10% rise. But then if we look at Tesla's done, just the total opposite, right? So, I mean, the recent high was back in mid-September when we were above 308, and now we're at 180. So Tesla hasn't participated in this rally at all. So we've seen a lot of mixture between different companies where it actually is in the scale, but a lot of the S&P has actually been boosted by energy names, because it's a weird dynamic we've got right now. So with ExxonMobil, when crude prices, oil, I believe, hit below $80 WTI on Friday, but ExxonMobil trading at 111, and the XLE, which is the energy ETF, is trading at around 91. But the last time oil was at $80, Exxon was trading at about 85, and the XLE was trading around below 80. So the energy stocks are 15 to 20% higher than they were at this time, the last time crude was at these prices. So energy has been so strong, and they've been a big reason why this S&P has bounced. Because I mean, tech has bounced a little bit, and some of these other companies, but the energy sector is just on fire. And those are what's really driving this S&P higher. Which is, so it's definitely the best performing sector this year by far, and it's really pushing us up towards this end. But with Tesla, all of this selling, I mean, I believe you have a theory for this, hey? So,
yeah.
What is going on? The darling. We actually, first of all, at a really important level, because we're at November 2020, March 2021, then again in May 2021, and we haven't. So it's been 1.5 years since we've been this low. Coming back to last May, and we're at this level. And if we take these out, realistically, this is just all upside. The next real level, you're looking at around 150-ish, just below 150, and that's potentially where it can go if we can't really hold these levels, which has shown strong support over the past 2 years. So we saw that we actually bounced initially. If we drag this out, we saw that bounce initially off this level, and we actually we rallied about 10% on that, but now we're back here again, and then again we found a bit of support. So hopefully we can continue this support around this level. But you can see around these levels, the volume has really dropped off compared to the volume at the initial stage. So hopefully the sellers are just running around here. But who could be these sellers? I mean, what's your theory?
The FTX contagion continues, and some of the publications are saying around 120 firms have been affected or
one client, 260 million at the whole. There's a whole bunch that are creditors for over 100 million, and apparently the top 50 clients are owed $3 billion, which is bananas.
As you probably have seen in the press the last few weeks, SBF and Elon have had some conversations over the last couple of months. SBF was adamant he wanted to invest in Twitter. He managed to get in contact and have a call with Elon saying that he had several billion to invest, some say 4 to 5 billion. And Elon claimed that he could smell the BS meter. So obviously that didn't happen. But SBF from 2020, 2021, he's always spoke very highly of Elon, and he's talking about giving his fortune away. And if you look at some of his tweets, even from end of 2020, he's saying Tesla is about the person behind the brand, and about he's saying good things about Elon. And in that respect, my feeling is that he's actually been putting client funds into Tesla as a bet. As all of this FTX unwinding has happened, you've seen a real disproportionate amount of selling happening in Tesla stock, and a lot of people will put that down to Twitter, and that's probably a fair comment. And obviously Elon has said certain things very polarizing, especially in terms of pissing off the Democrats just before the election, asking people to vote Republican, so that could have had something to do with it. But if you look at the charts and you look at when FTX actually started to unwind, you see a very sharp drop in Tesla, and usually Tesla has a beta of around 2, and so that means that if the Nasdaq usually goes down 1%, it would go down 2%. But we've seen Tesla previously kind of holding and doing a bit better than the Nasdaq fall, but now we're actually seeing it doing much worse than the Nasdaq, down 55% from its all-time high. So I mean, what do you think in terms of SBF? Do you think that he potentially is responsible for some of the selling? He had a lot of this type of crypto.
Let's look at Tesla, right? And if we look in general, where did it have its biggest moves? And I've always said it from the very beginning. With Tesla, some of these moves that they had seem to be very unproportionate to we've had these huge move when it joined the S&P 500, when the stock splits were happening, and obviously part of that was the meme stock era. But some of the moves and the veracity of those moves seemed to just be a bit. You could always tell there was a big buyer behind it, like really pushing the stock. And so if you can see, we had this huge move up here initially. It was virtually vertical. Then we had this gradual decline. Then another huge vertical-like move up. Then a gradual, but still a pretty steep decline, but gradual in a sense. And then since then, we haven't had. I mean, it's been a lot more measured, but we've had two huge vertical-type moves in this stock, and we had another one over here. And then if we compare that, and here's the FTX price. Again, I don't know if there's any correlation, but the beginning of 2021, this is, so if we look back at Tesla, we had these moves. So this is what happened in beginning mid-March. We had that huge move from 250 post split all the way up to 375, and then at that same time, we had this huge move up in FTX token all the way up to 60, and in FTX token again in July, we moved all the way up to 80. Now, I don't know how much that had a bearing on Tesla price, but you can obviously see there was some slight correlation. And I think it's a totally plausible idea that given the way this guy has been swashbuckling, just the way he's been spending funds. I heard that they did a $420 million raise back last year, and then SBF took $300 million for himself. And he just went, "Oh yeah, here you go. Thank you for the raise, guys. I'm taking $300 million for myself." And if you
tell me one thing. How has he not been arrested yet?
This is just this.
They talk about
that. He's in the Bahamas trying to say, how is he not being arrested? It's actually outrageous.
The amount he swindled, any of the creditors that he's got, why is none of them kind of putting some security out there, putting a bag over his head and basically flying him on a plane back to the States to face justice for what he's done? I find it crazy. I feel like everything seems to be swept under the rug, isn't it? Like a little bit.
Something is afoot here. The crime he's done, that is, firstly, I got some sort of theories, and again, they're just theories. I feel like because it's in the crypto industry, and first of all, the government don't really look too kindly on the crypto industry. The central banks don't really look kindly. And in a way, half of these guys are quite glad it happened, because it's putting more doubt on the crypto industry in general and swashbuckling in it, and just basically making people more and more wary that this could just be overall just a big scam. And I think the government loves that in a way. So they're not trying to get in there, and they're sort of telling people, well, we told you so. We told you this. Because soon after we had this, so we've had Fed members said, it was just a big Ponzi scheme. It's just a scam, pretty much. Kashkari pretty much said that as well. So all of these Fed guys and a lot of these top guys in the government haven't been really sympathetic towards the people that have lost money, more trying to say, well, I told you so. So in that regard, he hasn't really broken any rules in terms of US securities rules, because it wasn't really regulated into that extent. So that's why I think, firstly, they haven't done anything. Could it even be that this was all the government set up and SBF was just there to just smoke a whole bunch of people so that crypto loses its luster? I don't know. You never know.
But the thing is, you understand the government not going after them, but SoftBank are writing down 100 million, right? Shakoya is saying it's also doing the same. Like, it's insane the amount of money that he's taken, and it's not like, oh, the venture didn't work out. He was using the client funds for his own bets, and I don't know where a lot of that, if he converted it into other coins and masked it, there could be people getting paid off left, right, and center. Some of it could have been going to the war effort. There's so many different.
Well, he apparently has so much property in the Bahamas and that, which I heard that he paid with FTX coin, which is now worth nothing. So hoping those people that got the properties, that the moment they got paid in FTX coins, they cashed out and didn't hold it. As long as they cashed out at the time when the sale was made, then they would have been fine. But who knows what they did. But this is a con and fraud beyond levels never ever seen before. It just seems alarming. And if this ever happened in the securities industry, but if you actually look along all the mega frauds, what has happened to all of these guys? MF Global, where I personally got hit quite a bit when I was a futures trader back in the day, and he brought down MF Global, John Corzine that was, which was the biggest futures brokerage firm, regulated, one of the heavily regulated futures broker, the biggest one, took the whole firm down. And he sort of didn't go jail. He was an ex-Democratic senator, and he just sort of got away with it. Lehman Brothers, Dick Fold, he got 310 million still out of Lehman, and then he got another job after that. But there was no real punishment. And I feel like all of these guys it's only the low-hanging fruit that gets put in jail, like Liam Neeson and that flash crash, like Nav Sarau, the flash crash trader. That he done a bit of spoofing. He's extradited, this and that, or causing a flash crash. I mean, how much money did really people lose in a flash crash, right? It was a flash crash. It went down, went back up, right? This guy has taken down the whole industry, and he's getting less punishment than Nav Sarau. And it's unbelievable how a lot of the low-hanging fruit, they're the ones that get into full punishment, whereas you've got your Dick Fold, your John Corzine, now SBF, some shaggy-haired 30-year-old that just has conned over all the celebrities as well as all of these hedge funds, and just getting away with murder.
He's been reportedly seen in like a local supermarket, just in his flip-flops and no security, nothing. Literally, Sequoia or any of them could just pay maybe 20 grand, 50 grand or something like that, and have him in the US groveling, saying like they could at least try to get some of their funds back or something like that. I mean,
I'm waiting for the movie. I'm waiting for the whole. I'm waiting for the documentary. Something. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes and why everything is so slow, and what he has against all of these people. That on the surface, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but on the surface, it just seems like they're going after him in a very haphazard way. Like, it doesn't seem like there's real urgency to bring this guy to justice when it comes more and more apparent what he's done. And again, is it because it's the crypto industry, or is it because he just got into he gave enough people enough money everywhere? You were saying in the last pod, like, YouTubers were getting paid 50 grand a month to promote FTX. Can you imagine what some of the higher ups were getting from him? Can you imagine? Maybe it's that he's paid off so many of these people to such large amounts that if they come after him, they could all be exposed. That SBF paid him 300 grand a month to look under the table. There's and now I think about this, it makes even more sense. If YouTubers were getting paid 50 grand a month, how much was he paying some of these top dogs, all in the establishment, to turn a blind eye? And the fear, I can imagine Sam Bankman-Fried texting all of these guys, say a word, guys, say a word, and it's all coming out, how much money I paid you. And it could be.
No, the thing is, he's got them in their pocket. Whilst Elizabeth Holmes, just been put away for 11 years, she didn't do that. Sam Bankman-Fried, I'm telling you, if he's just walking around a supermarket in his flip-flops with no security, his security is that he's paid off these guys. Like, exactly what you said, it's 100% right. I mean, there's no way that a fraud of this scale is not, like, at least perceived to the public through the press, that it's being clamped down on, in a way of just like, how is that possible? Because innocent Americans, innocent mom and pops have put, even imagine you had money, obviously.
I've been taken to the cleaners. I've been done up the ass from crypto. It ain't been pretty, and I don't have that much back. There isn't anyone who's got crypto that is cleaned up, because shorting is still not that easy. But I just can't imagine anyone that is not reeling. And this is after Luna happened earlier in the year, and what's even happened with Do Kwon. All of these guys are coming out and going, "Oh, see, look, I wasn't that bad. Look at SBF." And it's just something doesn't add up. And this has not been a conspiracy theorist or anything, but like, people know where he is. Arrest the guy. Yeah. But again, I just got a feeling he just paid off people just too much, and people are in a bind. And
Tom Brady should grab his.
I know. It's something is afoot, and I'm sure as the weeks and months and again, Elon said this. The reporting on the FTX collapse on Twitter has been monumental.
Phenomenal.
You want to know everything, the amount of sources of information, everything just coming out on Twitter every day about, oh my God, this has happened. He's been doing this, and more and more revelations are coming to light. It's insane. And so that's just a place where you've got to keep on looking as more and more is getting unlocked in 100%. Terms of this craziness.
And that takes us smoothly into CBS quitting Twitter, citing uncertainty, saying that they're going to continue to monitor the situation. Now, this is, to me, why mainstream media is very, very scared of Twitter and what it has in store for their futures. Elon doing great things in terms of taking Twitter as a money-losing company, unfortunately putting some of the staff into redundancy, and also telling the rest of them, look, unless you're willing to work long, hard hours and really contribute to the mission, you're not really needed here. But basically cutting down Twitter from a 7,000 strong team to literally in the multiple hundreds. And a lot of people are pushing back on that. But, if you think about it, the hardest software project in the world currently is full self-driving. And Tesla is obviously the leader in that at the moment, looking at the real world testing and what you can see out there. But that team is, guess how many? 150 people. Now, if 150 people working on the hardest software project in the world, how many are actually needed to run a piece of software that lets you tweet 280 characters and post some images and text. I mean, like WhatsApp and Instagram famously had less than
8
50
people. Like when Instagram got taken over, there was about 8 people working for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Got taken over for $1 billion.
Yeah. So now, if you look at what Elon's doing, it seems like the press is just, they love it. They absolutely love all the coverage. If you just type in Elon on Google News, and you will just see literally, you don't even have to go to the next day. It's just the same story in every news publication. Like Elon is saying right now, Twitter, it has the record high number of users, and the mainstream media was saying, obviously, this is because of the election, but it's not to do with the election. That's way past, and Twitter's going stronger, and a lot of even YouTubers are now moving to the platform, opening up accounts and trying to build a following there. It seems like it is, like you said, coverage of the news. It is happening directly on Twitter, and it's actually kind of democratized access to posting information about a story. And now the mainstream media is all quoting Twitter for a lot of their bits on their stories. So this is actually phenomenal what's actually happening. But it seems like the mainstream media really want to show that Twitter is dying. And there was this hashtag going around as like
RIP,
RIP.
I mean, if you look at Twitter again, it's still far away from a well-polished tool, and there's still a lot that needs to be done. And while he's trying to work towards it, and some people might agree with what he's doing and some might not, but one thing that does seem clear, just purely by the way it's running right now, is the amount of staff, and how does that really translate to the rest of the tech sector? Because we clearly know, and then with again, it seems like a lot of these top engineers have a very cushy life, earning ridiculous amounts of money, not really doing that much work, and they're around in every tech company. And I think the days of these companies really, you've seen all of these top tech companies, they've had a reduction in earnings, and it will really now be up to management to cut costs. And where can you cut costs the easiest is the staff. And the thing is that they're the biggest drainer of funds. And if there's too many people not really putting in their net worth, what is required, I think this might be an end to the days where you get all of these not working as hard tech people earning crazy money, as a lot of these other companies will have to try to become more lean to remain continue that growth in profits and keep that share price up. We clearly see right now the market's rewarding everyone that's cutting jobs, like Facebook. Meta, it's gone from sub 90 to 112 purely because it announced it's going to cut 10,000 staff. The market is rewarding being lean and not being too bloated with too much staff, and then we've seen that, and it's been an ongoing thing.
Well, whilst Tesla has been a lean company pretty much since inception, and obviously much early on in the year they were cutting a lot of staff, but it's like they preempted this whole thing. The market is obviously not rewarding them at the moment, because every time I look at the chart, getting killed.
Again, it comes down to their sellers. Who's the big sellers? And it's very, very likely. The thing is that SBF, I don't know if you look at Tesla's obviously a huge market cap company, so it might be that anything that he had didn't even come up on the radar in terms of like a significant stake or something. But again, it's a speculation. We don't know if it's him or not, but it could also be a lot of funds that are not agreeing with the whole principle of Musk, and a lot of these funds don't want to have any part of Tesla anymore as well. But there's numerous factors. But I would not be surprised to see a headline next week or the week after saying SBF sells out Tesla and etc. Because we already know he's got a stake in Robinhood, which is likely needed to be liquidated. And so if he got into Robinhood, why not Tesla? But again, it'll be interesting.
Just a little bit of information on Tesla. The EPS is 53% of Apple, right? Tesla's market cap is only 28% of Apple. So and Tesla's growing at 50% a year, whilst the annual growth of Apple is only 7.8%. Like Tesla is super undervalued. Tesla has around 21 billion of cash and marketable securities, and will generate around 4 billion in free cash flow in Q4. And it's looking like it's crazy undervalued. However, where are the buyers? That's the thing. It seems like a lot of them have been chased out of the stock at the moment, and pretty much anyone who wanted to buy the dip, me included, is out of money. So, now we just have to hope that
it's a very difficult time, because it's not an endless money on trees. Able to again, same before. Like I was lucky that I sold a bit of quite of some of these stocks, especially Nvidia, on this move up. But again, it's nothing. It's still tough because the thing is, you just don't know where the bottom is, and how much can you keep on putting in? I mean, this whole year has been totally different from the last 7-8 years, where every buy the dip has worked. This year, none of the buy the dips have really worked unless you've taken your profit on any bounce. If you just held it, It's just not, active management has been the best.
One other thing is that Charlie Munger has praised Elon Musk, calling Tesla a minor miracle. He hasn't, or any of the Berkshire Hathaway leadership haven't really been vocal on Tesla. But I think now Tesla's coming to that stage of becoming a cash cow. I suspect that for Munger to actually start saying things about Musk, they might potentially be accumulating a small position. If you see like the end of day chart, I've been just watching the price movements around like 177 on Friday, and then you kind of see like a bit of a push up. So I think they're slowly trying to accumulate position. And if you look at Charlie Munger and Buffett's real strategy is really to buy when blood is in the streets, right? And when things are of good value, it's all about the pricing for them. And obviously Tesla is quite attractive right now, and potentially you never know. And they wouldn't really announce that they're actually buying until they've actually accumulated that big position, because they know that the market will pretty much try to front run them. But I think that would also give a good sentiment to Tesla, because if the conservative investors of Berkshire Hathaway have a position in Tesla, that means I think
that would be a huge bullish signal if you see Buffett and Munger coming in and disclosing a stake 100%. It'll be interesting. But looking at the old portfolio, again, based on this 10,000 portfolio, we're at now $1,380 profit, which is about 14% return. And again, we had that dip, but again, just consistent profits, more profits than losers. And keeping the risk checked has been the way to trade this year. And again, different years bode well for different strategies, but at this moment, this has actually worked quite well. When we look at the Tesla position, I've got an iron condor, so I need it above 183.33. If it can stay above there, then this position will work out good. I've got a GameStop. For some reason, GameStop is a company that just won't die. AMC has died quite a bit, but GameStop, it just finds so much support around this 25, 26 level, 24. It actually went below, it went to 23, but it just has got this ardent amount of buyers that are buying it. That basically 22 translates to about 88, 90 pre-split. So it just has the support, and it's just been working. So you just have to trade what works at the moment. And then Coinbase, again, that's not worked out well. 53, 55, and Coinbase is absolutely getting smashed on the back of this whole FTX thing. But again, we've got till December 23rd to hope that works. D-Local got smoked on that one, but got till Jan 20th. There was a short report out. That had a short report out one day after I put that position on. But again, we've got 65 odd days, so that should be all right. And then here's my USO and UNG. So natural gas has had a real big move down, so playing this to the upside, doing a small vertical spread. So we'll see how this ends up. Hopefully it can continue this run going to the end of the year, and then going to next year, just keep on putting more and more on and growing it as long as the market conditions allow. But again, some of the defined spread has been a savior in this market. More than some of the naked calls and naked puts that have done in other portfolios. So again, everything works in different markets, and in this market, this strategy has worked quite well. So keep an eye on the portfolio if you want to see it. The next session, I'll definitely give a couple of trade ideas from inception to the actual trade that I'll end up putting on. So look forward to sharing that. But anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, Puru Saxena, if you've seen him since last November, he's been very bearish, and he's largely been right about what's been going to happen on a general macro basis. And he's tweeting a lot more now, telling everyone to be careful, warning us, let's not get excited here. Do not chase the rally. So
many are expecting a recession next year.
Yeah,
many
exactly.
are expecting a recession.
Yeah, and so wait for the Fed to turn, and when the Fed is our friend, then start to put a lot more in. Right now, it's best to stay as much as you can in cash and just be defensive, like Rajan was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you liked what you heard, please give us a like, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.